Hello, and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good and wonderful people of YouTube. For today, hope you're feeling grand and awesome in your world. Hello there, everybody. Today, people of YouTube, we are looking at this guitar by Vintage. This is a Vintage Coaster Series V60 guitar that Vintage have very, very kindly loaned to me for a review. I think somebody's been watching my videos. Anyway, so good guitar, but there's pros and cons. I'll talk about the pros first. We'll get those out of the way first. So, first things first, this guitar looks stunning. Rosewood kind of, I'm not sure it is rosewood, but it's got kind of rosewood kind of neck. It's like a Dakota red body. It's tortoiseshell scratch plate. It's got 3 Allen Entwistle single coil pickups. So you know this guitar's going to sound great because Allen Entwistle pickups are just they're amazing. And I've tried these guitars before. I've tried these pickups before in some Revelations, and they're just stunning. They just have that Strat thing. And this guitar, because of these pickups, it sounds absolutely stunning. These Allen Entwistle pickups are to die for. It's got a really good tremolo unit. It's the same unit you get in kind of Jet guitars and Revelation guitars. It's the MVB. I don't actually know what make or brand that is, but it's a fantastic guitar. It's actually a full-size zinc block as well in the back. Really, really cool. Just kind of like, your bog standard machine heads, but they work, they hold tune, they do a good job. The nut is okay, actually. It's not cut fantastically, but it's okay. It's not ridiculously high up this top end. When you play open chords, it actually is in tune, which is always nice. I've had a run recently of getting some cheap guitars where the nut has not been cut at all, and you go to play like an open chord and it's just so out of tune because the nut's just awful. But this one's actually done really, really nicely, so that's pretty good. It's not fantastic, but you don't feel it, if you know what I mean, and everything open chords play in tune, which is what you want. So like I say, then the fit and finish is pretty good as well. By the way, all this kind of weird peely thing is just the plastic that's on the scratch plate. Because this guitar's on loan, it's not mine. I don't want to take that off because I'm guessing this guitar will go on to either other reviewers or to be sold, I'm guessing. I don't know. Or just kind of like a thingy. So these guitars are made in China. Pretty good fretwork as well. They are a bit scratchy. Not the worst I've ever felt, but they're really good. There's no fret sprout on this guitar at all. It's really nice. The neck's really nice and straight as well. Like there's nothing, no issues there. One thing that does worry me. So let's move on from. So the pros are this guitar sounds great, feels great. The electronics are fantastic. The tremolo is fantastic. It stays in tune. It does what it does. But there's a couple of negatives, and they're all to do with the neck, people who YouTube, sadly. And again, the neck is where you spend most of your time. And if that's not quite right, then arg. Also, another thing as well is like the body is really light in comparison to the neck. The neck's it's kind of neck heavy. You don't really feel it when you've got it kind of like strapped onto you and you kind of like play it. It's kind of fine, but when you sit down with it, it has tendencies to want a nosedive quite a lot. You can kind of feel you're holding it up, so to say. It's a bit like an SG in that way. It's not massive issue, but I wanted to bring it up because the body is, I don't know what the body wood is, but it's super light. And it's also thin as well. It's not kind of like, it's kind of not quite Squire Bullet thin, but it's not like full. It's not quite full thickness body size either. Anyway, so yeah, let's go on to the negatives. The neck. So the neck. I don't know if you can see this picture. Hopefully you can. If I get the guitar in the right angle, let me just check. So not only is this neck absolutely mahoosive, it's a really big neck. There is absolutely no taper to this neck whatsoever. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. I'm trying to keep the guitar as level and as straight as possible. But this guitar neck from one end to the other does not taper. It doesn't start thin and get thicker. It's just one size. And that's pretty cool if you like that kind of thing. But I don't particularly. It's not really. I like to have like the skinny neck to a fat neck. It's kind of what I'm used to with like my kind of like my other guitars. They all do that thing of like thin to fat, and it's a bit weird. When you kind of like, if you're not used to it. I mean, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with it, but it does feel a bit weird if you are used to the whole thin to fat kind of neck thing. So bear that in mind. Also, another thing, PeelTube, is these guitars are kind of like, a very kind of like budget-friendly, beginner guitar. It's not a beginner guitar. There is no such thing as a beginner guitar. It's just a guitar. But you know what I mean? Well, people like to label those things. But it's a cheap and cheerful guitar aimed at beginners. And to be honest with you, PeelTube, I wouldn't recommend this to beginners. And it's something I've been coming across a lot of recently. I've got it with this guitar. I've had it with the Aria Pro. I've had it with the Gear for Music guitars and a couple of other guitars that I've got recently. That kind of the cheap and cheerful ones, where the necks are just baseball bats, and that's not what a beginner wants or needs. If you're starting out guitar, the last thing you want is to grab a guitar that has a huge neck, and the neck on this one is not a beginner's neck. If you've got some hand strength because you've been playing for a while, then this guitar neck is very comfy. It works. It's really, really nice. But if you are a total beginner, if you're a total beginner and you're kind of like playing this, that thing feels big. It feels really, really big. And if you turn the guitar the other way around, and I can feel how big that feels, and I really just don't. I just can't. I can't justify that to a beginner, because it's just ridiculous. It really is. And again, it's the same thing with kind of the Gear for Music guitars that I demoed, the Strat and the Tele. They're great if you've been playing for a while. And I love my Gear for Music Strat and Tele, but I wouldn't recommend them to a beginner. I really wouldn't, because the necks are far too big. And it's really strange because if you go for a Squier Affinity or a Squier Bullet, those necks are really quite skinny and they're really, really comfy and they're very easy to get around on. So I don't really know why certain brands, I don't know if Squier has a monopoly on that thing, but I don't know why certain brands are doing this absolutely humongous baseball bat necks. This is the neck on this guitar is actually the biggest neck in this room right now. The closest to this neck is my 59 replica, which is a very, very big kind of 50s style neck. But this one is a slight bit bigger, just a hair bigger, and you can feel that. And again, because there's no taper to it, it takes a bit of adjusting to get used to playing it. But it is a very comfy neck if you've been playing for a while and you have a hand strength to do it. Again, beginner, I can't recommend it. I really can't, because it's just too big. Another thing that worries me as well, PeelTube, is I don't know if this neck is shimmed or not. I'm guessing it is, because there's actually a void in the neck pocket. Let me see if I can get a plectrum to show you what I mean. There's a void in here where I can actually get a plectrum in quite far, and that's actually the first time I've actually seen this on a guitar of this kind of price point. You can actually wedge a plectrum underneath it. Now, what I'm guessing there is there's just a shim under there. And that's not uncommon for an S-type guitar, because you always eventually have to shim the necks on Strats invariably. My 62 Strat over there has a shim in the neck because the angle's wrong. And it's not uncommon, so it's not really a negative point, but you can really see the cavity, and also there's another kind of weird cavity here as well. It doesn't look like the neck fits quite properly to the pocket, and that kind of worries me a bit, but not too much because the neck's pretty solid in there. But I don't know, it just worries me a little bit, PeelTube. I don't mind having the shim in the neck and having that cavity. It doesn't bother me, but that one does. You know what I mean? When the neck isn't quite flat into the neck pocket, I don't know, it worries me a bit. But anyway, shims are not something to be worried about. But like I say, my main negative on this guitar is the neck. Like I say, it's a very, very big neck. If you like big necks, then yes, mate. But it's not really a beginner thing. Also, the frets were a bit scratchy when I got it. The setup wasn't good at all. That's another thing as well. It's not just cheap guitars anymore as well. Really expensive guitars are having terrible setups these days. I don't know what's going on. There doesn't seem to be the care and attention anymore. It really does. It's really strange. I've played like Fender and Gibson custom shop guitars with horrific setups. So that's not something to kind of turn your nose up at. And again, it's 5 seconds with an Allen key and you're away. And that's literally what it took me on this one, POG. The action was too high, the strings were all higgledy-piggledy, and all I did was lower them down, get them to the height I wanted them to, and the guitar just plays. The fretwork is fantastic. There is no dead frets, there's no buzzing, no rattling. It just works, it really does. But again, the neck thickness is the biggest negative for me on this guitar. Other than that, PureTube, it's a great guitar, and I'm really, really, really happy to be able to say that. Because, like I say, this is the first vintage I've actually picked up in a long time where it hasn't been all just doom and gloom. This one's actually really, it's pretty good, apart from, like I say, the neck and the neck pocket, which kind of just gives me a bit of cause for concern. Also, another thing as well, it's nitpicky, but, the neck heel here is a little bit, you kind of feel it, if that makes any sense. Also, the nut's a bit sharp, but again, 5 seconds, a bit of file, job's done. Like I say, I've played Fender guitars with sharper nuts than this one. It's nothing to really write home about. But I'm so happy, people of YouTube, to actually say that I really like this guitar. I'm really grateful to Vintage for sending it as well. Like I said, I did a video a while back about why I don't use vintage guitars anymore, because, like I said, I reckon their quality control has suffered in the last couple of years, which seems to be something that was echoed quite a lot in the comment section. So it's really nice to be able to bring you a vintage guitar that I can actually kind of semi-stand behind. I can't stand behind it completely because, like I say, the neck is not... to me, it could be better. If I was to keep this guitar, I would be sanding this neck down. And I'd be trying to get that kind of that fall-away thing where you got a thinner neck to a fatter neck. I'd be trying to get... I would be getting that. Because it's a really nice sounding guitar. It sounds like it's got that Strat thing because of the Allen Entwistle amazing pickups here. It's got that amazing Strat thing. It's got the full-size zinc block tremolo with the folded kind of steel saddles. The tremolo is amazing. It looks fantastic, this guitar does. The neck just lets it down. It also, because it's unfinished as well, it's a little bit rough. I've played other kind of guitars of this price point, and the necks are a little bit cheap. The necks are a little bit smoother than this. The gear for music guitars and some Squiers, the necks are a lot smoother than this. This one's a bit rough. It's got a bit of a kind of unfinished feel to it, especially around the kind of the neck heel. It's not been kind of completely sanded, and I get that for the price point of these things. But again, when you've got other companies that Jet and Gear for Music and people like that, and their necks are absolutely smooth as ice, you can't really kind of skimp out on those kind of things. It also feels quite rough down this end as well, and here when you get down to the dusty end, it feels a bit funny. But would I recommend this guitar? Yes, but only to people who have been playing a while. I wouldn't recommend this if you're a beginner or you're looking to get a guitar for your son, daughter, or your pet dog, or whatever to learn on, or if you're looking to learn on. This is not a guitar I'd recommend learning on at all. This is a guitar you kind of you can get after you've kind of got a bit more hand strength, so to say, because it's a very, very big neck. There's also no rolled fret edges. The fretboard edges are not rolled. They're not 100% sharp. They're not like PRS sharp, which is one of the reasons I like PRS. But it's a lot of companies are doing that rolled fretboard edge thing now, like Jet, for instance, and that just makes all the difference, I feel, to kind of playing. I mean, some people don't like it, and that's cool, but I do. And again, that'd be another thing. If I was keeping this guitar, I'd be sanding the neck down to make it a little bit more, thinner. And I would also be rolling these fretboard edges as well. And I'll tell you what, PureTube, this would be an absolutely stunning giggable guitar. Because it's really, like I say, it's really, really light, which is a problem when you kind of sat down because you do feel like you're holding the neck up. But it's because of the way a Strat is on a strap, it just balances so well on a strap. And it's so light, you could play it for hours if the neck wasn't debilitating. Anyway, I'm going to shut up talking now, PureTube, because I've waffled on for hours and it's far too long talking. Anyway, but yeah, really like this guitar. Massive thanks to Vintage for sending me this guitar. I really do appreciate it. It's nice that kind of there's no you know, that they're willing to send me it in the first place. Because, like I say, I did a video on their quality control thing, and I still stand by that. This guitar is still fantastic. It really is. But again, I still can't. I can't recommend this to beginners. You know what I mean? It's not one of those things I can recommend. But it is a great guitar. So massive thanks to Vintage, and a massive thanks to you for watching PeopleTube. So anyway, hope you enjoyed what I'm going to play on this thing. Yeah, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Have a great morning, afternoon, good evening. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. Links to that in the description box below, as well as links to my Bandcamp where you listen to my music. Other than that, let me know what you thought, PeopleTube. And also, I want to hear, have any of you picked up one of these guitars in a shop? And what is your experience? Is it negative or is it positive? Or is it a bit of both like mine has been? Where it's like, you know, there's some good bits and there's some bad bits as well. It's not kind of all, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not all doom and gloom. Let me know if you've picked up one of these vintage coasters, and let me know if you have one. You know, do you love it? Is there a bit issues? Let me know what your thoughts are. And again, recommend go out and try one as well if you're curious, or you want like a cheap kind of like nice awesome Strat copy. Be aware of the neck. But yeah, other than that, let me know. Anyway, goodbye now. Thank you very much, Steve, for watching. See you later.